Hi folks, we're back. Welcome to 5 o'clock, 7 minutes after 5 if you want to be really careful. Welcome to the downstairs hoard where it is, that clock needs to be adjusted, but I don't know what's that say, 50 something degrees, 53 degrees, 52 degrees. I'm thinking of moving one of these outside because they show you if it's going to rain. And obviously it's raining, so just in case I get too lazy to look out the window, I could look at that thing and figure out that it's raining. The purpose of this video is to show Clay how to do a timing chain on one of these things. And basically, this is the motor you have. I gotta keep my lights on here. This is basically the motor you have. Right, except right there, instead of having a welded sprocket, you actually have a right hand turn and a drive shaft, but that really doesn't make much difference. To get into where you need to get, what you need to do is there's a recoil starter on the outside here. You take that off and that's what you're looking at. I don't know, 4 or 5 8mm bolts, piece of cake. Then you take this cover off, you can see the bolts, a couple bolts on the inside, not that big a deal. Then you're to the flywheel. So and it's quite similar. Obviously you got to get the starter off, right, and so forth. Not too difficult. I moved to a 200S motor because it's a little easier for me to talk about. Typically, you block this, you put a screwdriver through here, or in this case, you block that with a screwdriver, take the bolt out, right, take this bolt out. So, then for these flywheels, there's a tool you thread in, you pop the flywheel out, then you take a few bolts off. This cover comes off, and once this cover comes off, this is where you're at. And I kind of wanted to get to this point so we can kind of look this over. Wish I had more light here. You know, better planning on my part would make life easier. So this is your timing chain. And you said it fell in the case. Well, you really don't. I mean, the gear is right there. I'm just looking at it to figure out how much trouble you're in. Probably what I would do is I would make sure you take this bolt out up here and push this plunger all the way down, right? Which completely loosens your timing chain, right? That'll be out of the way and you've completely loosened your timing chain. I hope this video is coming out okay. I guess what I'm trying to show you is what it all looks like in here, and I'm not quite sure how you got the chain wrapped up, but if you could get your probably what happened is there's kind of a divider in the center, right? I don't know, could you guys see it? Right about there, right where my finger's pointing. You're probably on the wrong side of that, but even with that, I'm thinking that you can probably poke around with a wire and not have to take all this apart and kind of grab onto it. Maybe you can kind of start out with a softer wire and get it through the chain such that you're hooked around the chain or hooked through the where the gear goes on the chain here, and just kind of grab on it and, you know, work it back and forth as you're manipulating the shaft here, as you're kind of turning the shaft, right? That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping you could do, because it'd really be a shame to take all this apart, blow through all those gaskets and so forth. So let me just take a few moments to kind of videotape, right? No matter what, you need this chain adjuster, right? This thing basically, yeah, it has the same chain adjuster. The shaft drive, I'm wondering, and I'm going into memory here, which is really scary. The shaft drive might have a chain adjuster that sticks off the side here, perhaps, because they might not have room for the chain adjuster with the gears. So they might have the chain adjuster off to the side of the head. I do not have one of these motors handy with shaft drive, so we'd have to go outside and go through the mud and so forth. I'm just hoping by showing you the videos here that if it has the same exact chain adjuster right there, if you can't push this all the way down, what you do is you just get a thin bolt or a thin screwdriver and just push down, and this plunger will go all the way down, and then you can lock it into place right there. And then there's the space you have. Yeah, I'm just wondering how the hell you got it so wrapped up in there. I mean, once again, sorry for the really crappy camera work. Let me zoom in, perhaps that'll help you kind of see where things go. For those of you, some of you like buy engines in this kind of condition, and you kind of wonder what kind of trouble you're in. And there's a way of telling why an engine has been taken apart like this. If you look at it and you see that the rings are all seized up against the cylinder like these are, they're not floating at all. They're all tied up against the cylinder. This one too, right? They're all seized up against the cylinder. That means, for whatever reason, they either ran them without oil, or they got rusty, and you know, from sitting. This one looks like it's got some rust on it. This one looks like it got rust too. These were probably both rusted into place. Yeah, they look like they rusted into place. Now, should you find that, there are a couple of things you could do. You could give the cylinder a quick bore, and then you could, or a quick hone rather, just run a set of stones up and down the cylinder, or a brush up and down the cylinder, hone it out real quick, and you could do your best to very carefully free those rings. Probably you're going to end up breaking them. So, and when you do that, just use the pieces to make sure the grooves are real clean. Throw a new set of rings on there, assuming once again the bore isn't scored. You could just give it a little polish job and put the whole thing back together again. It's a bitch to get these cylinders to come down once they're seized. I typically use a hardwood block and start banging them down, and then gradually it'll get so that you can lift the jug upward, put wood underneath the jug, and continue to bang the cylinder down. That appears to be the only way to get them loose. I also recommend putting a whole load of oil in there, but you can tell by the way this whole thing is seized, it's really hard for the oil to work its way down the cylinder. So I've had luck freeing them. I don't know if I did these two. I think I did this one. I'm not sure where I got this engine in this condition. This engine also has the wrong bolt on it. Looks like somebody forced an American bolt on that, or a bolt from a steering system onto that one. That looks like the right bolt, but it looks like these threads not badly boogered up, but they're not great either. The nice thing about this engine is the shaft's in pretty good shape. So this engine might be worth fixing. This one's got a welded shaft. Clay, you've used the word split the case. Normally the terminology of split the case comes about when you actually have to split it here, which means you end up with a pile of transmission that you got to get back in there, and you got to get all the spacers where they should be. Should anybody ever decide they need to split the case for whatever reason, my suggestion is that you really pay attention and take notes where you saw the spacers. Make sure that the spacers don't have to be one way or the other, so you don't put them in upside down, crap like that. Really take your time. Start out clean. Don't start out stupid like this mess is. You really need like a full, 4x8 table with like a old white sheet on it, nice and clean. Not in the wind, a nice bright spot though, so where you can see everything, and everything you take off you lay out in order, and that way you don't lose anything and you can put the whole thing back together again. I recommend working hopefully on a clean cement floor, so God forbid you drop anything, you could find it, pick it right up, clean it up, and put it back on the table. Mostly with these Honda 200 motors, I haven't really had to split the case for anything I've done to them. You can do all your clutch stuff from this side, all your flywheel stuff from that side. You can even replace this shifter shaft without splitting the case. You take this side off and it slides right out. So, assuming some moron didn't weld it for you. There we are. Anyway, Clayton, one last look. I'm really hoping that once again, given that you're within a couple of inches here, right, 3 inches, that you can't get a wire down there, some nice strong wire, coat hanger, or if you need something, they have this wire for binding masonry forms together. Kind of comes in a U shape, something like that. I wouldn't use copper wire because it's probably not going to be strong enough to hook on and pull. A coat hanger would probably be your best bet, but once again, fish it down there and you can kind of see the way things go. If I had to guess, it's probably this little, where my fingers wiggle, and that thing's probably causing you the trouble. Sorry for the lousy camera work. Alright guys, good luck, Clay Pierce. Thanks for watching, commenting, and subscribing. We'll catch you on the next episode of The Horde. Till then, remember to keep your feet, your tires, your tracks down, your head, your handlebars, and your steering wheel up. Live, love, and have a great time. And once again, thanks for all my new subscribers. Thanks for my old subscribers. Thanks to everybody who takes the time to comment and watch and subscribe. Bye now.